and everyone in my house is ill. That's the other thing about it. It's just making me, and everybody in your house is sick. So I've got this feeling of like, my daughter has a concussion. That's not her fault.
Oh.
It's minor. It's minor. Just started playing soccer. It's a small. I think it's a concussion. It's either a concussion or a head cold. It's hard to tell. But sure, head's killing her, and it's been killing her since the weekend. And then, but my wife really has a bad cold, and
it's really going around. I mentioned last week about me getting the the training camp flu, which is if you've been you're out in the relative heat of the summer, and then you go into a cold hockey rink for pretty much two straight days, and you come out with a cold, which I did. And now, like, a friend of mine has got a really bad cold. My mother's got a really bad cold. My niece has got a really bad cold. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, it's horrible. My wife was at a conference at Penn State and had to come back, and just got back. So she's got that cold, and just after a while, when you're around people 24/7 that are sick, you can't help but feel like, oh man, my head's hurting me, I'm tired. I'm like the epitome of of I must be getting sick too if everybody else is sick.
It's either that or it's like sympathetic pains, like when husbands get sympathetic pains when their wives get pregnant.
Right. What's the famous Simpsons line? The Simpsons line is really funny. It's like the teacher's just been out for a while, and comes up on the board and says, "It turns out I didn't have Lyme disease. My sickness was psychosomatic." She writes on the board. It's like, and the one teacher says, the one kid says, "Well, does that mean you were faking it?" And then the other person says, "Does that mean you're nuts?" And the teacher says, "A little bit of both, actually." That's me. I am psychosomatically sick right now, I think, but I don't know. But I'm traveling, so that's wonderful. All right. Anyway, what could go wrong? All right, we're gonna start the show. Here we go. It's the 23rd of September. The reason I know today's date, by the way, I know you're always curious about why I know the various dates. Today's date is. This just in.
Today's date is
the release of Disney Infinity 2.0 for the Wii U, which my son's been waiting for forever, so he's psyched out about it. So it's a very cool game, but I'll just throw that out there. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, that's why I know today's indeed Tuesday, September 3rd.
23rd.
23rd. Yes, indeed. Tuesday, September 23rd. All right, we're going to talk preseason. Of course we're going to talk preseason. So those in the chat room want to know. How will we not talk preseason right now? Nothing gets you going like a good preseason game. Preseason hockey really just makes you want to... Josh, for those of you watching, is really just shaking his juice over there.
Oh,
Looks great on camera.
Well, that's not... I'm not touching that one.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Is that an analogy for something else? He's shaking his juice?
Right.
I was like, well, like
Then he mixes. Then he drinks. I thought you were making a statement regarding preseason, Josh.
He's shaking his juice.
A lot of people feel that way about preseason games, Josh. A lot do.
oh my God.
A lot of people agree with you when it comes to preseason. Okay, so here we go. Start the show here. This is a family show. All right. You ready, Josh? You okay?
Yeah, sure.
You wait till you see that later. You got to watch the video of that later. Yeah, that was good. That looked great on camera. You got to check that out. All right.
I don't know if I want to.
Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
It's okay, Josh. And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com, where we're going to talk preseason games, despite what Josh thinks of that. And we're going to actually talk all sorts of things. I think where we should start, though, is what's going on right now in the NHL. A press conference is occurring as we speak, or might have just ended at Washington National Stadium in Washington, D.C., where they've again put the facade of a rink on the field and brought the NHL and all the players, some players from Chicago and Washington together to announce the fact that there is going to be a Winter Classic in that arena on January 1st, 2015. And first of all, 2015 really makes me feel old. Secondly, uh, and we're 15 years since the millennium. That's insane. Where has the time gone on that?
What happened to Y2K?
Seriously, remember that just seems like yesterday. 15.
Yeah.
So so they're talking about that, and of course the building, and of course this is the first time we've had an announcement in a stadium where the team is still playing. The Nationals are still alive and going to be playing in the playoffs. But usually those teams are pretty much gone by now. And also we have some really interesting World Cup of Hockey news we're going to get to as well. So Winter Classic, we don't really have to probably discuss. They've already talked about that. So let's jump right into the World Cup of Hockey. First, to start with, there have been rumors circulating, and this has been going on for about, I don't know, the better part of a year now. And even longer than that, the World Cup of Hockey would eventually return. This to me is a bridge. This is a bridge idea by the owners to try to get the players out of the Olympics, essentially. Now, I had written before, this maybe a year ago, or I don't know, maybe last winter during this. Right after the Olympics, I wrote this. That I had heard the NHL's idea was to piggyback after the Summer Olympics with this game. This tournament. That way, you won't want to put the hockey into the Summer Olympics. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense, right? But when people watch the Summer Olympics, there's a whole lot of nationalism going on. There's great, press. People are in that mood, in that frame of mind. Why not follow up the end of the Olympics, which is always kind of, depressing, with something else that they could throw in there nationalistically? And so 2016, right at the end of the Olympics, it looks like, which will be in, I think, Brazil, if I'm remembering right. Is it the Olympics in Brazil?
I believe so.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Mike's our Olympic authority. In Brazil is and they'll follow up with this, which I've heard will take place in one European country and 2 North American countries, involving 8 teams. And my guess is there will be some sort of like 2 divisions type thing, and one division will be mainly European divisions. The other division will have the U.S. and Canada in it, with perhaps 2 unlucky saps from Europe who have to come over here. Maybe because there are going to be 6 teams essentially, how it plays out, and then that'll be invited automatically. Those 6 teams, Mike, do you remember which 6 teams? Speculation.
Off the top of my head, it's got to be Canada, U.S., Russia, Finland, Sweden, and the Czech Republic.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Although I've heard rumors that Switzerland might be ahead of the Czech Republic in that list. That's still up for debate. I mean, the Czech Republic is obviously has a long tradition, but Switzerland is really coming up fast. I have a feeling Switzerland, will make this tournament as well. There'll be a pre-tournament to get into this tournament, and there will be, of course, pre-tournament tournaments to get into that tournament as well. So, but it'll all culminate at the end of, apparently during September, the beginning of September to the beginning of October. And so what are your general thoughts, first of all, both of you, I'll start with you, Mike, because Josh is still composing himself over there.
Well, I'm good.
Your general thoughts, Mike, with the World Cup of Hockey in general. Are you game with this?
Yes, I like the concept. I like the fact that it's going to be during the summer and not, in the middle of the season, interrupting the season. Which, for people who are hockey starved in August, it'll actually have us, give us something to write about and something to watch. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the Olympic experience involving NHL players. I mean, I think, granted, somebody can get hurt in August, but a team's season, an NHL team's season, like John Tavares getting hurt in the Olympics, is not going to be ruined by a player getting hurt in August unless it's like an injury like an ACL. So whereas if the Islanders were in the playoffs last year and Tavares suffered that injury, that would have destroyed any chance of them making the playoffs. So I think it fits better with what the NHL wants to do. I don't like just shutting things down for 2 weeks. I also don't like the money going completely to the IOC And in this instance, it's hockey-related revenue that can go to the players, to the owners, to the IIHF, and I think it's going to be more equally distributed. And if they do continue the Olympics and do continue going to the Olympics, then what this is will be a counterbalance revenue-wise to what they don't get out of the Olympics. So I think either way, it's a good thing. The only possible problem I see is whether it will generate the amount of interest that the Olympics has had in the last few years. And I think for people in Canada, for people in Europe, if the World Championships at the end of in May and June have interest, then I'm sure that the World Cup or Canada Cup or whatever they end up calling it will have just as much interest.
Yeah, I think so. You definitely lose a lot of the casual. You're going to lose casual people out of this. Like the casual hockey fans that watch, that to me is the Olympics. There's a lot of casual hockey fans watching the Olympics that I think you do lose. But overall, I agree with almost everything you said, Mike, except for a few things that I will discuss harshly with you later after Josh talks.
Guys, I'm not really a big fan. I like the World Cup of Hockey, but from what I've been told and what I'm seeing and working for Sportsnet, Chris Johnston has said that apparently he's been told by a high-level source that it'll be from September 15th to October 1st. I think that's a mistake. That's when injuries happen and could screw up and your team, doesn't get off to a nice running start. If guys are getting injured, I would think that would kind of screw your season, wouldn't it? Or at least the beginning of it?
I actually like it. I mean, to me, watching preseason games right now, we don't need to see the kind of players who are going to be playing in the World Cup in the preseason anyway. This preseason is really not about that. And why not give the guys like, the Claude Giroux and Sidney Crosby's, they probably get a better training camp practicing with guys like that they're going to practice with, getting ready for the World Cup of Hockey. And they'll probably be more ready for the regular season. Injuries can happen, but like Mike said, if an injury happens in the beginning of the season, it's a hell of a lot better than it happening in February.
But what about some of the GMs, Zach? There's GMs out there like the Lou Lamoriellos that hated the Olympics because guys will get injured and then they'll come back, right? Well, I think this is just as bad when guys, come back to their respected team to start the year and they have a broken leg or a broken arm or a separated shoulder or a groin pull or something where they're not ready to start the year. And then basically they're not skating for a while, and when they do come back, it takes them a while to get into a groove. And I think you're going to see a lot of general managers that are not going to be happy about this as well.
Well, that's the risk that the NHL takes with doing any kind of ancillary tournament, not something that's not NHL related. If they're going to do, a World Championship, a World Cup, an Olympics, that's the risk you run. My thing is, I'm sort of balancing the two. Do you want a player getting hurt in February when you're going down the stretch towards the playoffs, when the meaningful games happen? Or would you rather have it happen early in the season, or even during training camp, if what Chris Johnston is reporting is correct, and I have no reason to doubt it. But I think you have players like Phil Kessel is not going to play all 8 preseason games for the Leafs. So if he's going to be playing USA versus Sweden at the World Cup, it's basically his training camp. Yeah.
And probably a better training camp, it's like these guys get a chance to work out with other guys that are of their level. And we've already seen like Claude Giroux just got hurt 10 minutes into the first practice day, right? So anything can happen. And these games last night, you saw fights. I saw Braden Shen get leveled. I thought he could have had a concussion. He got a hit from behind. That with Claude Giroux already out, that could have been disastrous for the Flyers. I think you can't worry about injuries. I think you got three factors here, right? You have what the players want, what the owners want, and then what's good for the NHL. Those are the 3 things it comes down to, right? So what's good for the NHL, I think that's debatable because the Olympics are very good for the NHL in terms of the fact that, people follow the Olympics, and then I do believe there's an uptake in hockey interest after the Olympics in the NHL because, especially guys like, for example, who knew who TJ Oshie was last year, right? TJ Oshie was we knew who he was, but if you ask a general guy, Eagles fan here in Philadelphia or whatever, who's like a father of somebody on the soccer team, no offense because I know some of you guys watch the show, you guys didn't know who TJ Oshie was, right? But now suddenly they did, now they know, and then there's more interest. The NHL definitely benefits from the Olympics because it's such a big, gigantic stage, and there's so much history, especially with the Miracle of Ice and all that stuff. There's so much going on, right?
Yeah.
The players benefit, the players want to go. The players are about the players, and in this case, they really want to play. They just want to compete in these things. They love competing in these things. This is not about money for them. This is about the competitive spirit of players, which is amazing that that's getting any kind of recognition when you think about it in the sports world in this day and age. Like that matters at all is awesome. I mean, I don't think any other sport would let this happen. Like football players wouldn't. The NFL wouldn't let their football players go to an Olympics. Any other physical sport, maybe baseball, sure, but this is like, it's amazing that the NHL, just because the players just simply want to compete against other and play for their countries, the NHL allows this to happen. That is pretty astonishing.
Yeah, and what I think this is, Zach, is this is the players' participation in the World Cup is paving the way for them getting what they want, which is to play in the Olympics. If that's what the owner's end goal might be to stop sending them to the Olympics, but if it's going to be they're going to go to South Korea in 2018, then the price that they're going to have to pay is to play in the World Cup in 2016. So
right.
the NHL gets something out of it financially. The players get something in terms of their legacy 2 years later. So this is going to be an every 4-year tournament in between. And, if it's scheduled in August or September, then it follows the Olympics so that they can sort of piggyback on the Olympic experience and use that. I mean, I don't see a big problem here, but and I know that most of the games are going to be played in Toronto, at least from the reports that I had heard.
That varies. I mean, I've heard various different reports. I think that's what Toronto people are saying right now. But I don't know that this is going to be. It's going to be a moving thing. It's going to be a rotating thing, I think. I mean, some games will be played in Toronto. Some games will be played in Montreal. Ottawa's got a good chance at. But I think all the Canadian cities will eventually get a shot at this. I don't think it's going to be. I think you'll have some Vancouver games. I really do. I see no reason why you wouldn't have games in, and you'll definitely have games in. They're talking about games in Madison Square Garden, games in Philadelphia. I've heard, Boston, Colorado. So there's definitely options here that they can do different spots, right? Mm-hmm. But the NHL the NHL does not necessarily benefit from the World Cup of Hockey as much as it does the Olympics. The NHL players get to do their thing, but the overall hockey thing of the World Cup of Hockey will be good, but it'll be good for people like us. It'll be good we'll love it just as much as the Olympics, but the average hockey person, they might get some people for the Olympics, but it's not going to be like they get for the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And the networks don't benefit necessarily because they lose hockey, which is a big draw in the Olympics. I mean, there's still going to be hockey, but it's not going to be, this kind of hockey. The owners, don't want them to do anything, and I think their goal is to try to get them to transition out of it. But there's also a fear that this might just turn into them playing twice as much. Like this might be the Olympics and the World Cup of Hockey continuing onward.
Right.
And does that benefit anybody? I mean, are we getting too much international hockey if that's the case, or every other year? Like I did like the distance between Vancouver and Sochi. I thought, but it felt like the right amount of time when those guys should be playing again.
Well, what we don't know, and I'm sure will be asked, is whether in the years that this World Cup will be played, whether there will be a World Championships. Because that would make no sense to have a World Championships in May and early.
Yeah, now the World Championship, I do think will be eliminated by this in those years.
In those years, okay. If that's the case, then fine. Then all this is doing is replacing the World Championships. Then.
Yeah, but not really because so the World Championships are way lower on the totem pole than this will be. I mean,
I'm saying in terms of the physical burden on the players. It's not like you're going to have players who get eliminated in the first round who are not in the playoffs going over to Europe and playing in the World Championships in late May and early June, and then have them play in a tournament in late August and early September. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but you're only talking about 10%. Like, how many players that are going to be on the World Cup team of World Cup of Hockey are actually on the World Championship teams every year? I mean, it's a small percentage. I mean, because most of those players keep going in the playoffs or don't go at all to the World Championship. So you're talking about stars.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The star players on the eliminated teams. I mean, a guy like Dion Phaneuf went to the World Championships. Maybe he would be in the mix for Team Canada. I know he was in the mix for the Olympics. I mean, he didn't get selected, but he was at their development camp before. So, star players, Eric Stahl has gone to World Championships. So you're not going to have 50%. You're not even going to have 10%, but there will be a few players.
A few players. I think that the reason people go to the World Championships is twofold. When I've talked to players who've gone to the World Championships, one is to further their international career. So maybe this is Dion Phaneuf saying, I'm going to go play on the World Championships, so you do look at me further next Olympics, so you give me another shot at the Olympics. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is just to get the hell out of Dodge. Some of them, like after the playoffs, are really tired and just are beat up, and they look at their wives and they're like, you know what? You want to go to Stockholm for a couple of days? Want to go to Switzerland for a week? Let's get the hell out of here. I'll go play hockey. We'll sightsee. It's very low key. I mean, the host. Yeah, sure. When it's hosted in Russia last year after what happened in the Olympics, yeah, sure. There's like a different situation, right? I mean, the Russian team has to do something. They wanted to go in and make a statement. That Russian team last year was on a mission, and everybody went, right, because of what happened in the Olympics. But most of the time, that's not the case. So it's a total where this World Cup of Hockey will be the kind of thing like we'll have this show sometime in June when Steve Yzerman or whoever replaced him will get up and announce who's on the World Cup of Hockey team. It'll be totally different. Like it'll be a whole big ball of wax again, like we have in the Olympics. So, and it does, and Chris, a couple interesting things from the chat room. First of all, Vic says, why even hold this if Canada's going to win it all the time? And I agree with that completely. Canada's going to win every one of these tournaments, no question. So why even hold these? I'm just kidding. Funny. The other thing is turning it into soccer. Are we turning hockey into soccer? And that's not the worst thing in the world, guys. I mean, soccer is a huge sport worldwide, and soccer does this. They have an Olympics and they have a World Cup on every other alternating year, right? This is what they do. And the World Cup actually is is bigger than the Olympics in soccer, right? That's the only difference.
The Olympics are a joke in soccer. I mean, they're not.
Right, they're getting bigger. I think that.
Yeah, it's not even close to the World Cup.
No, it's not close. The World Cup is one of the epic tournaments in the world, probably one of the top 3 epic world tournaments. So that's a totally different ball of wax. Maybe the top tournament in the world. So, arguably the biggest thing in the world. So yeah, but the Olympics have gotten pretty big in soccer over the last few Olympics. It's with more soccer being played in the U.S. especially, at least around here. So so that's, I mean, it's debatable. There's a whole lot. You can see what happens every time the Olympics come up. When you think this through, you can see what goes through the NHL's head. Okay, the NHL's sitting there and saying, oh man, we get all this publicity. So the owners are on one side. No, don't let the players go. We can't afford to lose Tavares. We can't afford to lose Crosby. It's not fair. We pay them millions of dollars. They go play for free and try to kill each other to try to win a gold medal for what? The players on the other side saying, no, we demand, we want to go. We've earned the right. We want to support our country. It's such a great thing. And then the NHL's in the middle saying, it's really good for the sport because we get a lot of viewers, we get a lot of publicity out of this. So they go to the owners. The owners like, all right, fine, we'll do it for the sport. And this is what happens every year. And that little piece in the middle, I think, sways it back. The NHL saying, okay, this is enough, right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, that's where we are, and that's why we keep going to the Olympics. I do think we're going to the Olympics in Korea. I really do. I've talked to enough people now that I think it's happening. Even with this World Cup of Hockey happening, I think it's happening. That's just, to me, that's where this is going. So,
which means you're gonna have games at really strange times.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, if you remember the
not
Nagano,
as bad as Russia, but close, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you remember Nagano, I mean, I remember watching the infamous Czech Team Canada game, the one the shootout where Gretzky did not take part and Dominik Hasek stoned the Canadians, and if memory serves, that game was at 2:00 in the morning.
Right, and that's a problem, especially in the day and age of the internet and Twitter, where you can't hide anything, and you can't avoid it. And we saw the last Olympics. It's hard, really hard, to avoid what happens. You know, like I was one day, I wanted to watch that Russian U.S. game. I didn't want to get up that early in the morning. I wanted to watch it with my family, and literally we had like every computer in the house turned off. We had every TV turned off. I went over as carefully as I could to the television to turn on the DVR so I wouldn't see it, because I just thought it would be impossible to miss it. And after all of that, you all right, Josh?
Yeah, I just got a real bad cramp. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. After all that, after Josh might need a day off today. But after all that, the DVR, the stupid DVR, because the thing goes to a long shootout, I don't even see the TJ Oshie goals. My DVR cuts out. I mean, it's a pain in the neck when these games are, you know. So we have to go. I have to go down and find a computer. Try to not see what happened. This is the funniest thing. Me trying to not see what happened, but click on the highlights of the game. You know, somehow trying to and I'm like, finally, I'm like, oh, screw it. My family will get the surprise. I won't. I just found it. I brought up the TV. I'm like, all right, let's watch the end, pretending I didn't know what had happened. You know, that's like, this is the craziness of playing in weird time zones, right? So, I mean, there's that. The World Cup of Hockey, the benefit of this will be most of the games will be played here. You know, most of the games will be played here, and they'll be played in prime time, and they'll be played when TV networks want them to be played, and you know, Comcast will be involved, and CBC and Sportsnet will be involved, and all this will happen.
It'll be played in a broadcasting dead zone, like, you know, and if it's in August and September when the only new content is the NFL. You know, baseball is the pennant races are running down. I mean, if they play it in August, which I think they should, and maybe they don't want to do that because it's going to take players out of their routine, their off-season routine. You know, then I think, you know, replacing preseason games, it will just be, you know, so much more entertaining. So I think we covered the gamut on this, but it'll be interesting to hear what happens.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, I lost my bell, but yes, it will be interesting, Mike. That's why we'll discuss it again. We discuss interesting things here on the show.
There's the.
This will replace it.
Moving on. Jonathan Drouin. Josh, what's going on there?
Yeah, Jonathan Drouin is now appears to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. I believe it was a separated shoulder. I saw the report on. Thumb injury.
Yes,
sorry, I'm thinking of separated shoulder is Datsuk now or something.
You must have my kind of doctor. Separated shoulder. Oh, nope, sorry, it's your thumb.
Sorry, just all over the place.
That's all right, no problem.
Not bad. Something happened to my foot. Okay. So Drouin, he's got a thumb injury. X-rays on Monday discovered a slight fracture of the thumb on his right hand. 3 to 4 week diagnosis. My guess is he won't play for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, 6 weeks. Yeah. This is a shame. I mean, then this definitely affects our pool of rookies.
Everyone thought that he was going to win the Calder, but hey, I picked Goudreau, so I'm good.
Yeah, actually, you get some benefits out of this.
Yes, I do.
So anyway, yeah, that's Drouin. Unfortunately, he's out for a little bit longer. Here's something I want to talk about. We had the new Washington Capitals jerseys. Josh showed us this beforehand. I have a picture of it here.
Mm-hmm.
Just had it. Where is it? Darn it.
Apparently, Ovi has white pants to go with it too. White hockey pants.
White pants. All right, so the new Winter Classic jersey. Here it is. This is I guess this will be Backstrom modeling this, right? Let's see if I can show you guys this. Here we go. Fantastic. All right, here he goes. All right, so here he is. And this is the jersey. Yeah, it's looks like the University of Wisconsin jersey, perhaps, but a really awful joke that just came back to my head that I can't tell. But anyway, no. So this is their jersey. I'm not, it's not terrible. It's not fantastic. It's a lot of red. Mike doesn't like it. Josh doesn't like it.
Candy cane. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's what I said. Not a fan. I actually just saw something. Now I'm trying to find it. The reason they went with the W on the front is it's an old hockey team. There was an old photo, and now I just can't find it. I just saw it a second ago. Keep talking. I'll look.
That's okay. You know. So yeah, this is I mean, this is perhaps harkening back to some AHL team maybe, or who knows. But see, if I was the Caps, if they really wanted to go old school, like to me, they should have gone DC. They should have gone like the DC Comics logo. Like that would go with the DC. I mean, why don't they use the term DC, Mike? Do you think?
I just don't think they. I think they want to accentuate Washington and not the district. I think because it's the capital. It's the capital of the country, and Washington is the what people associate with the capital, and not the District of Columbia.
Right.
I mean, I think that it's all a question of branding. Now, my problem with this, I look at this jersey and I'm like, okay, it's not the worst jersey out there, and I know the NHL is, especially with the Winter Classic, they want to market a new version of a jersey, and they did that last year, effectively with the Leafs and the Red Wings with their throwback jerseys. But I think the Caps are only 40 years old. And they've only had 2 or 3. They had those really bad jerseys that they had during their run with Ron Wilson at the helm when they went to the finals in the late '90s, which I thought were pretty bad. But the classic Washington Capitals jersey, which I showed you guys before, from the early to late '70s, those are cool looking jerseys, and I think all they should do is wear those. But they want to sell new jerseys, so that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, Josh, what's up?
So here is, let me put you guys back up there. Here is why those jerseys were made. You see the old style, but no stripes on the side. And the whole background from that is a story here I pulled up from the Capitals. The primary color for the Capitals NHL Winter Classic uniform is vintage deep red to symbolize hockey's deep roots in Washington. The stripes on the shoulders, waist, and legs brings in elements of Washington's professional hockey jersey from the 1930s, predating the Capitals formation in the 70s. A large W on the front of the jersey, offset in blue to contrast the white Capitals wordmark, offers a unique look never seen before in a Caps jersey. A large W on the front of the jersey is offset in blue to contrast the white Capitals woodmark and features a silhouette of the Washington Monument, offering a unique look never before seen on a Capitals jersey in franchise history.
I mean, come on, please. I mean, just reaching there, reaching.
Yes, the size and shape of the Washington Monument is appropriate in this instance. I don't. The whole thing to me is just kind of I mean, they have to really be careful what they do here. I don't know. It's fine. I mean, I think
it's ugly.
I think they either go back to one of their. What I would have done is they go back to their original red jersey. Like, we've seen their original white jersey now, right? We've seen that. That was in the last Winter Classic, right? And that was the original white jersey the team still wears once in a while. The big Capitals thing, which was, let's face it, besides the awful Canucks jersey, which you guys like, the Washington Capitals jersey, original Capitals jersey, was horrible. And, there's no question. I mean, now I'm glad they're not going back to, like, the Peter Bondra jersey era. Like, when I think of Peter Bondra, I think of that other. I have one of those jerseys. Yeah, there's the one. See, go with that. Why not go with that? Because we haven't seen that jersey in a long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would make some sense.
You know what that jersey, by the way, kind of reminds me of when we had the ugly All-Star Game jerseys.
Oh,
remember
yeah,
those
were horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
We went through a lot of ugly All-Star jerseys. There's no question about that.
Ooh.
There was the only cool All-Star jersey was the orange one in my mind. That when the last one of the last years they had the old NHL logo, which was way cooler than the new logo, the orange and black NHL logo, where with the thing went down instead of going up. You remember the whole thing? Anyway. We're getting off the topic.
You talking about that one?
Yeah, that's the better NHL jersey. I mean, that's the better NHL logo at least.
Mm.
I think. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about preseason. Last night the Flyers played 2 games, because they're that good that they can play 2 games. One in Philadelphia, one in Toronto. At the same time, it's funny to be a fan and watch your team playing in split, trying to watch both these games. The Flyers looked pretty good in Philly and looked pretty good in Toronto too, actually. In Philly, I was, we were impressed by Gostenberg, who Bear, who really I can never say his name. Bear. Yes, who is obviously an NHL defenseman, no questions asked. I mean, he's got all the skills. He's a perfect chemo team and replacement in my mind, and because he plays a very similar game. He was a bit overzealous and made some of these really vintage rookie giveaways last night that made you think, yeah, perhaps he does belong in the AHL for maybe half a year, a year. But Bear is really he's the real deal. I mean, he's a real NHL defenseman, no questions asked. As is Sanheim, who's only 18, their first round draft pick, who also looked amazing last night, and is very smooth, very very smooth player. I love watching him play. He was just totally impressive. So in goal, the Flyers had Emery, with his brand new goalie pads, which are bright orange. They're impressive. And then they went with Zepp, who's a great story. That's another story for another day. But their other backup he's a really cool. It was the first time in the NHL. This guy's been playing hockey forever in all different sorts of leagues. It's just a really feel good story there. And also, Ron Hextall's son skating for the Flyers last night, wearing number 61 and looking just like. I mean, his face looks just like his dad. It's hilarious. Plays a very scrappy game. Like his father would have played if he played forward, and it was fun to watch him. So there was a lot of fun to watch. It was kind of an ugly game. It was Emery looked okay. The defense, the power plays for both teams were. You see this in preseason where power plays are just killer because that's when they put their NHL players on the ice usually, and the power play looks really way better than anything else. And power play for both teams last night in the Flyers Caps game was impressive. What did you see in the Flyers Toronto Leafs game, Josh?
I didn't really watch the Leaf game. I'll leave that for Mike since he was at that. But the Flyers game, I watched that as well. The other one, and I got to say, that Blair Jones kid was scaring me. I'm glad I wasn't on the ice. He looked.
He's out for blood.
Yeah, he looked pretty tough. I liked Voracek. He looked, very noticeable all game long.
Lost 12 pounds, Voracek has.
Oh yeah, he looked really good last night. And I was watching the Devils and what was it? The Devils and Rangers last night, I believe, in Albany. And Ryan Malone scored a pretty goal, and he looked pretty good as well last night. I was pretty impressed with his play. He was playing on a line with Marty St. Louis. I guess I could play with Marty St. Louis and maybe score a nice goal. Said it before,
Josh. I mean, I've said it before. I think that Ryan Malone is a steal. Yeah. I think somebody should have grabbed him. He's a way better. Just because of what happened to him was a horrible thing, but the kid can still play hockey. He's a tough kid.
I'm going to grab him actually in my hockey pool. But a couple other things. 10 seconds into the Anaheim Ducks game, Danny Heatley scored off of a pass by Ryan Getzlaf, so that didn't take long for those two guys to connect. In the LA game at Phoenix, I believe Mike Richards scored 2 goals, and a lot of people thought that he looked a lot quicker out there last night as well. Yeah. So there were quite a few things that stuck out to me watching a couple of games last night. Marty Hansel apparently looked really good as well, and he's had to deal with health issues the last couple of years in Phoenix. Max Domi actually had 3 assists last night, including the shootout winner for the Phoenix Coyotes last night. So quite a few guys out there making some pretty solid impressions last night.
Yeah, I mentioned yesterday when we talked about Mike Richards as one of the tradable players. Like I had said, I talked to people, and they said he's in the greatest shape he's been in a long time. And Mike Richards, if he plays inspired hockey, you want him on your team. There's a reason he signed that contract. So if he comes out like that, I mean, that does put the Kings in a hole. I mean, adding him is like adding a big time UFA because they haven't had him for the last couple of years. So Mike Richards, if you get the real Mike Richards there, you're getting a lot. And that Blair Jones is from Calgary, yeah. The guy Blair Jones who played for Calgary, Flames Rest, and he's like a spark plug. They really love him in Philly. I've been surprised. He's gotten like a new life. Josh?
Yeah, I got one more quick thing, and that's everyone. There's some talk going on that there could be a surprise player in Detroit this year that could have a big impact for the Red Wings, and that's a healthy Stephen Weiss. I keep hearing that he is in the best shape he's been in a long time as well. If you remember last year, he was non-existent, had to deal with a lot of injuries, didn't really play very well at all for Detroit. But I hear he's come to camp in great shape, and he's ready to show the reason why a lot of people thought he was going to be a top player in the league. And now I'd like to throw to Michael about the Leaf game last night. Mike?
Thank you, Josh.
From London, Ontario.
From London, Ontario. The Leaf Flyer game was not the most interesting preseason contest. It was a little slow at the beginning. The lineups were mostly, I'd say, probably 2/3 of the AHL rosters. The Marlies or it used to be the Phantoms in Adirondack. Now I think they're moving to Lehigh Valley.
They're still the Phantoms, though.
They're still the Phantoms, but I mean they're moving from Adirondack.
They're moving to Lehigh Valley, which is right down the road from me, so I'm kind of psyched about that.
Yeah, so the Flyers took a 2-0 lead. The Leafs came back. Nazem Kadri had a goal and an assist, playing in his hometown. They always play Kadri in London. I think what struck me about the game was how physical it was. I mean, Wayne Simmons went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
He'll do that.
On Corbinian Holzer for really actually no reason, and got booted from the game, which gave not that it really matters because it's an exhibition game, but Simmons has had a problem in the past controlling his temper, and that ended up being the cause of the tying goal, and then David Booth scored in the shootout to give the Leafs the victory. David Booth, I think. May be a factor with the Leafs. I mean, he's definitely going to make the team, but I think he might be in a place, if he has a good camp, where he could be placed in a top 6 role, playing with guys like Kadri or guys like Bozak and Kessel, rather than being played in a depth role. Because we know what kind of player Booth was in Florida before the Mike Richards hit. I don't think he's going to be depended on to be like a primary scorer, but if he is a sort of a secondary guy on a line with skilled players, I think he could repeat what Mason Raymond did last year and score 20 goals. So I think we'll see what happens over the next 7 preseason games that they play.
I like that. I like that prediction actually. I would go with David Booth as well. The really interesting thing about David Booth is if he gets his career together here and can put a couple years, he's still a young player.
Mm-hmm.
Put a couple years together here. I could see him, along with Kessel and Van Riemsdyk, being a force in 2016 at the World Cup of Hockey. I could see him actually playing. He's a U.S. player who is one of the few U.S. snipers they were very high on a couple Olympics ago before the Olympic camp, and Booth has just gone downhill since then. But I could see him making an impact. So what did you see out of what did you see out of any other Leafs that stuck out in your mind, Mike?
Well, I mean, so Morgan Riley played last night. I mean, I think a lot. The Leafs are going to depend on him a lot to grow and mature from his rookie season. I mean, they have a young defenseman in Petter Granberg, who was a former 4th-round pick from a few years ago. Big, tough, strong Swedish kid, who probably will start the year with the Toronto Marlies. But Stefan Robidas, a veteran defenseman they signed as a free agent, is still healing from the broken legs that he had last season. Granberg might be the player to step into the top 6 if Robidas can't go at the beginning of the year. Most of the Leafs starting defensemen, most of their forwards are going to play tonight at Air Canada Centre against the Flyers, and I believe the Flyers are going to pretty much go with the same lineup that they went with in London, except with the exception of Steve Mason in goal. So we'll see a different Leaf team and pretty much the same Flyer team tonight.
I was kind of surprised how many players the Flyers. This is always interesting to me when you have the first game of the preseason and it's home and the Flyers go with Emery, like as opposed to going with Mason and leaving Mason, to play on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's all sorts of strategy that goes into that, but as a fan, the fans last night, you could tell it's like, well, wait a second, shouldn't we be, I mean, you would want the home but I was surprised how many players they actually played up there. They put a lot of NHLers. I thought more NHLers than the Leafs had in the lineup, actually, last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Leafs really didn't put a lot of their, and they put some third line, fourth line guys, but the big forward was Kadri and then Booth. But they've played in London. I mean, this has been the following of the rookie tournament that the Leafs play in London the previous weekend, and usually when they come back to play against the Flyers, in London, the lineup that the Leafs put up is essentially almost the same lineup that they played in the rookie tournament, with a few exceptions. That has been the case the last few years. I don't think it's going to change. I think it's mostly they're getting, two NHL teams. They're getting the gate from that, and it's like sort of one hand washing the other for the rookie tournament.
I think so.
That played there. So, but there are some NHL players, and I'm sure the people in London were happy with the result of the game. It was pretty interesting.
Did you guys see this goal last night? This is a Kopitar Gabrick beautiful give and go. Check this out. You see it here. What the heck's not playing? Is it? Hold on. Playing on my other screen. Let me get out of here 1 second.
Well, Josh, did you have something while we're waiting for the video?
Oh no, I just put it in the chat there for those who want to watch the Flyers game tomorrow against the Devils. It's been picked up by MSG Plus.
Yeah, and I believe the Flyers and Leafs. Oh, there you go. Nice give and go there.
Here it is. Yeah, so you can check this out, guys.
Yeah, I believe the Flyers and the Leafs are tonight on NHL Network. So
and TSN in Canada. Yeah. So here's the give and go with Kopitar and Gabrick. I mean, these guys haven't really lost a step here. Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Nice goal.
Yeah, I see that with kids playing street hockey every day.
Yeah, there you go, right? So, I mean, that's a beautiful one. That was a beautiful goal last night for sure. On this day in 1992, Manon Rhéaume became the first female NHLer playing in an exhibition game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Remember this?
I do.
That's how old we are.
I do remember.
Yeah, and I was, I'm like we talked about before. I really hope that we get a female NHL goalie at some point again. Because there are, it's hard to imagine. Maybe there's some female players. It's hard, to imagine them playing because of the size difference is so immense. But goalie it seems like when you look at all the positions throughout sports, goalie, maybe like, field goal kicker in football, spots where a woman could actually make an impact, perhaps. And I would love to see it because it just would be great for women's sports in general. That was such an exciting moment when Manon Rhéaume played in that game.
Strangely enough, I think that the advent and the growth of women's hockey in the Olympics, and in other the Canada and the U.S. I mean, I know that Sweden and Russia and a few other countries, they're starting to move up to the level of Canada and the U.S., but they have a ways to go. But I somehow think that the success that that women's hockey has had at the Olympic level is sort of not ended, but sort of like compartmentalized what will happen in terms of a woman ever playing in the NHL. I mean, I think it not limits them, but I think it limits the possibility because they have their own. The women play in college hockey, women play in the Olympics. There's not that. I don't know if there's that great desire to have like basically the Jackie Robinson of female sports bridging the gap to play in in the NHL. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen more women goalies last year. I remember doing a report on we've seen more women goalies actually playing with men's junior teams and things like that over the last few years. Just some highlights of Manon Rhéaume from back then. Hopefully this shows up. Maybe it won't. Anyway, forget that. Sorry, I'm having difficulty with my screen sharing today. But that was quite a time, and I still really I don't know. I've got a chance to meet her one time, and she's really cool lady. So I'd like to see that go on. Do we want to get into this Ice Girls discussion? Because this is something that is starting to, like last night the Flyers, officially had, they got rid of their Ice Girls and now they have Ice Guys, right?
Just what I want to see, thanks.
This is the thing. I mean, this is a really it's an interesting time for this right now, and there's a cyclical aspect to this that I've guessed because I'm old I've noticed, like the way this thing plays out, right? Where for a while now the San Jose Sharks they just released their Ice Girls uniforms are way more skimpy than they've ever been before. So we're in the middle of like this, and there's all sorts of controversy about that in San Jose, and I don't know. I feel like we should maybe get an Ice Girl on here to discuss this at some point, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether to discuss this or not. It's hard. Maybe we need to have a woman on this to talk about this topic. But Mike.
Well, the only thing I'll say is like the landscape right now. I mean, I know that there are lawsuits going on in the NFL regarding cheerleaders the Buffalo Bills cheerleaders who are basically being paid minimum wage or lower than minimum wage for a job. They're suing the NFL, I believe, for like an equal pay type of scenario.
Yeah.
And I think there is that aspect. Because I don't know how much the ice girls at these various events are paid, but I can't imagine that it's going to be a lot. It's the the fact that they're wearing spandex pants and low cut tops, and hey, I'd be lying if I said I didn't appreciate an attractive looking lady, but I can understand that people out there who say they're being objectified because they're young and they're attractive, and that's not exactly, maybe what should be done. Honestly, if that's a problem, then you may see the ice girls, or I know that Carolina and some other teams have cheerleaders in the crowd. That if that goes by the wayside too, then they just want to avoid that sort of display, and if that's making people uncomfortable, then maybe it will go away.
Felt like we were getting beyond this in a good way, like in a way where everybody was okay. There was, and I don't know I don't know, and I know this stuff is happening, and there's idiots out there. There's guys that are absolute idiots out there, and there's always going to be idiots out there.
Right.
But it felt like we were getting beyond this kind of stuff, where the ice girls enjoyed what they, because I'd love to get their opinions on this. Like the ice girls, a lot of them, I've talked to them before. I've talked to the Flyers ice girls, and they loved what they did. They loved it. They had they didn't see themselves as being objectified. They got it that they were beautiful and they were out there skating in skimpy outfits, and guys like to look at that. But they also work really hard to get their bodies in shape to do it. So they kind of considered it a compliment. So it felt like we were getting beyond it. I know there's idiots, so I know that maybe that destroys the whole party. But I don't know. I don't really have a good opinion on it. I just wondered if we should talk about it, because it is something that keeps coming up. Josh, what do you have?
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know that Bodog has released the NHL player proposition bets at Bodog Sportsbook, and some interesting ones I just wanted to throw out there before we go. Who will win the Art Ross Trophy as the NHL's point leader? I've never seen an odds as 1-1. Is that even worth betting on? Crosby. 1-1. Has anyone ever seen the?
You bet. What you bet is what you get back. Like you bet $10, you get $10.
That is pretty.
Do that. Yeah. So they have Crosby at 1-1, Stamkos at 3-1, Ovechkin at 17-2, Tavares 10-1, Malkin 10-1, Giroux 15-1, Seguin 20-1, Getzlaf 20-1, Datsuk 35-1, and Perry 35-1. Oh, Phil Kessel 35-1. There you go.
So what you're doing is basically you're betting on Phil Kessel and hoping that Crosby gets injured.
Yeah, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw this or not. Real quick, I'll come back to you, Josh. But did you guys see the play of the year last night by Mike Komisarek? On this
Mike Komisarek and play of the year. I don't think I've ever heard those two things in the same sentence.
This is pretty crazy. All right, so here's the play. Hopefully, come on.
At least not in Toronto.
All right, yes, here we go. Let me see if I can start it this way. 1 second. I'm gonna.
Well, if it's Mike, I was gonna say if it's Mike Komisarek and it's a play of the year, does it have to do with Milan Lucic and a right hand?
Ooh.
Check this out. This is crazy, and I got to get this working here. All right, so here. Let me see if this goes. Let me see if that. This is crazy. This. You got to wonder. Can this guy possibly? Here we go. This will work, I think. Can this guy possibly make this team now? All right. So here's look where Komisarek is. Okay. So he's taking out this player by the side of the goal. Okay. And there he is. Look where the puck is. Look at the player wide open in front of the net. Check this out. This is crazy.
Hey, he did that every night with the Leafs, didn't he?
I mean. Look how terrible a play this is.
That's what he did. That's what he did when he played for the Maple Leafs.
This is the guy wide open in front of the net, but he's taking out that player over there.
And you want to know why, Ak? Because Mike Komisarek is a right defenseman. On this replay, he's playing the left side.
Right.
Or he's probably playing the right side, but he ends up on the left side and leaves where he's supposed to be, which is right in front of that where 91 is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he barely played with a Carolina Hurricanes defense that was one of the worst in the league last year. I think this was a favor. I mean, Lamoriello is heavily involved in Team USA, and Komisarek was originally chosen for Team USA for the Olympics 4 years ago, and I would be surprised if he has much left in his career.
Yeah, but this next thing is very kick-ass. Okay, this next thing is definitely worth looking at. Malcolm Subban's goalie get up. Ready for this? This is crazy. Mm-hmm. So this is cool. Here we go. Check that out. That's badass goalie stuff, man.
I'm not seeing anything, but.
Are you not seeing it? Oh shoot! No. Heck, hold on.
There we go. Okay, now I see it.
Oh, you saw it for a second there?
Yeah, I saw it for a second. That was cool.
No, it's very cool. You gotta check it out. I mean, it's really, I like goalies that like take a chance. There we go. To actually, you're not seeing it still. It's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's sharp looking.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Anyway, Josh, back to you.
Yes. Back to the Bodog odds. We also have. Let's see. We have the. Who's going to win the Hart Memorial Trophy as the NHL's most valuable player? Crosby 7-4, Getzlaf 6-1, Stamkos 6-1, Tavares 8-1, Ovechkin 12-1, Giroux, Sagan, and Malkin all 15-1. Jonathan Toews 16-1. Which one? Toews?
Toews.
Who will win the Vezina Trophy? 3-1 Tuukka Rask, 4-1 Lundqvist, 13-2 Carey Price, 8-1 Quick, 9-1 Varlamov. That might be a good bet. 10-1 Schneider, and 12-1 Bishop. James Reimer, 50-1. No, I'm just kidding. I made that up. Who will win the James Norris Trophy as the NHL's best defenseman? No surprise. Erik Karlsson's on the top of the list, 4-1. After that, Weber and Chara both 11-2.
I'll put heavy money on Weber.
Yeah. I don't know if you'd win heavy money back, but anyway.
11-2 odds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, I gotta run, guys. Hold on for a second. I'm gonna mute myself, okay?
Okay.
Mike, for the Calder, they have 9-4 odds for Jonathan Drouin. Don't know if that's a smart bet anymore. John Gibson 5-2, Kuznetsov 3-1, Teravainen 13-2, although he's been injured and hasn't really played.
Yeah, Cam Barker took care of that one.
What do you mean?
Cam Barker is the one who hit Teravainen and
really? I missed that.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Cam Barker.
Yeah.
Ekblad and Drzani, both 7. Draisaitl. I always say Drzani.
I know. I butchered that one at the draft so many times.
7-1, and Bennett and Reinhart 15-2, and Bennett 15-1.
It'll be tough for Reinhart to win the Calder when he's playing in the Western Hockey League.
Yeah, I agree.
I seriously don't think that he will make the team. I didn't see the specific comments that Ted Nolan, the Sabres coach, made, but apparently he made some anti-analytics quotes.
Yeah, I did see that. That was yesterday.
And essentially said that he believes in what he sees with his eye and not what the numbers tell him. Now, that's paraphrasing. I don't have the direct quote, but honestly, I that's a point of view that I sort of find refreshing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that there is something to be learned by some of these analytics, some of the Corsi or Fenwick or whatever. I'm yet to be completely sold on them, but I'm open to the possibility that if if you see something and if there's a number to go with it, and it works out that it reflects what the quality of a player or the quality of a team is, then I'm sold. But at this point, I haven't seen the complete connection, and I think that Nolan is still among a number of people who are employed in the NHL who, at this point, just don't buy it. And it's going to take a while, Josh, for coaches and general managers, ones that have had a number of years in the league, to fully buy in. I think this is something that, as the younger generations come up, maybe they will buy into it. But I think older GMs, older coaches, they're not going to buy into it. They may play lip service to it, but they're not going to buy into it.
Wow. Couple of updates here on injuries. Drew Doughty's come out and said that he's not concerned at all and said he'll be ready to start the season. And Pavel Datsyuk apparently is now going to be going under an MRI on his shoulder after what happened last night. I think what ended up happening last night is he was hurt during the game and was took a hit from Penguins defenseman Rob Scuderi, headed for the dressing room under his own power, and he's now going to be going for an MRI on his shoulder. Not good news for Detroit. I mean, this is a guy that, has had injury concerns over the last few years, and, we're not even in the regular season yet, and, this is shoulder injuries are ones that can keep you out for, an extended period of time. But like I said earlier, a guy who could benefit from this is their number 3 center, Stephen Weiss, if in fact he is ready to prove naysayers wrong, that he still has a lot left in the tank and can be a 60, 70-point forward again. Now's your chance, Stephen.
But Josh, this is the thing that we brought up a couple days ago when we were talking about the Red Wings, and I mean Datsyuk. I mean, their problem last year, the reason that they were out of the playoffs until the last week or two of the season, was because Datsyuk and Zetterberg were constantly hurt. I think Johan Franzen was hurt as well as Weiss. I mean, they went.
So was Jimmy Howard. I mean, Mike, let's be honest. Jimmy Howard can't stay healthy either.
Yeah, he was out, and they went with Jonas Gustafsson for a while.
Yeah.
But the key to their season this year, now they were lucky that they Gustav Nyquist stepped up and played very well down the stretch. They got play out of Tatar and Yurko and a lot of these young guys, Glenn Denning, a lot of these guys from the Grand Rapids team that won the Calder Cup the year before, and they made the playoffs. But they, for that team to get back up to the higher echelon and not just sneak into the playoffs, they need Datsyuk, they need Zetterberg, they need Franzen to be healthy. They maybe need Daniel Alfredsson to come back, which I don't think is going to happen because it sounds like he's got a back injury that's going to keep him out at least a couple of months. I mean, there's been indications where he may not come back until he may do a Matt Sundin and come back halfway through the season. And who knows at that point whether he's still going to be the player that he was last year. But they need these veteran guys to be healthy and to contribute. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, this could be a little flare-up. It could be a 1 or 2 week thing. But Datsyuk is, I believe, 37 years old. Zetterberg is 33 or 34 years old. They've been through the wars. If they're getting hurt in training camp, if they're getting hurt, in scrimmages, it doesn't spell well for Detroit for them having any success.
And Datsyuk also said the last week again he'd like to finish his career in the KHL, Mike. So
yeah, I mean, and yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it could be a situation in the KHL like Solani was offered in Jokerit, where he could play home games or play half the games. I mean, Sergei Fedorov played games in his 40s in the KHL. I think it's more the cachet of having a star like Datsyuk play in that league rather than him having top end ability. I think he's going to use his top end ability up in the NHL, and he'll just be probably a shell of his former self playing in the KHL. But eventually he'll go there for a year.
Also, Mike, in Pittsburgh, Mike Johnston said today that Malkin's injury is not serious. He should be back soon. Sidney Crosby actually skated today, and he looked good today, so no worry about Sid the Kid right now. As for Kunitz said his injury isn't anything serious as well, enough to prevent him from playing a real game. So the Penguins right now are basically saying that their guys are fine. They're just taking some time to heal some wounds.
There's a team with a lot of as many question marks as Detroit has with injuries. I mean, Crosby and Malkin we heard about. Letang, what type of player is he going to be coming off of the the stroke that happened last year. Marc-Andre Fleury, his injury is more mental than anything. Although like we said last year, you can't blame Marc-Andre Fleury for their failures last year. I mean, I think he played very well in the series against Columbus, and they just weren't. That team was not good enough to win last year. The Rangers were full marks for the series victory against them. But they need Malkin and Crosby to be healthy. They need Letang to get back to where he was. They don't have James Neal anymore as an outlet for offense, so they're going to need guys like Hornquist to step up, and they're going to need Pascal Dupuis to return and at least be an option for Crosby as a scoring winger. So that team needs to be healthy for them to have a chance.
I guess
All right.
keep going. Oh, he's back.
All right, no, I'm back. I'm sorry. We got something bumped. Oh man, I want to talk about this right now, but I can't. Let's just say you want to stay tuned right now, okay? In the next little bit here to Hockey Buzz, and every other place. How's that for a teaser for you guys? But that's a potentially big story.
Anything about number 19?
I won't say a thing right now.
Okay.
Sorry. I really wish I could.
Okay.
But and I was trying. That's why I was staying on the phone there. I was actually trying to, come on, let me say something. Come on, let me say something. But no, not right now. Not yet. But things are happening. Put it that way. And
I think I know what it is.
Could be a potential trade. It could be a potential trade in the work. Yep, works. Yep.
Then I don't know what it is. Never mind.
Well, you might anyway, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right, so that's all. But maybe by tomorrow we'll have to be able to talk about this, I would think. So check out later tonight, and I'll let you know. And I'll be on this like crazy. Thanks for watching, guys, today. Tomorrow we're going to be joined. We're going to have a special guest. We're going to be joined by Tom Laidlaw, who is a former NHLer, defenseman for the New York Rangers, and also a former player agent. Now he's doing other business ventures. So it's kind of good because he can give us a good perspective on some of these agents and stuff like that, and some of the and also has a player's perspective, and he's just a very funny guy, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. So he'll be joining us tomorrow at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. I got to get back to work. We'll talk to you soon.